This wasn't just a trade. This was a surgical takeover that shattered quarterback market norms, blindsided an entire franchise, and sent shockwaves through the NFL in real time. When news first broke that the Las Vegas Raiders had signed Shedeur Sanders, not after the season, not after a free agency war, but during training camp, fans thought it was a hoax. Then came the number, $80 million guaranteed over 4 years. A rookie quarterback deal that not only crushed existing records, it obliterated the entire framework. Within minutes, reactions flooded every corner of the internet. TikTok creators were scrambling to get videos out. NFL Twitter melted down. Instagram stories spread like wildfire. Even servers reportedly lagged under traffic spikes. This wasn't hype. It was shock. Nobody, not the media, not rival teams, not even Cleveland Browns management, saw this coming. And that's the terrifying part. Because this wasn't spontaneous. This was precision sharp, cold, calculated, and months in the making. Sources say Raider scouts had been watching Shedeur like hawks ever since things turned sour in Cleveland. While everyone else was distracted by training camp drama, Las Vegas saw something more, and they moved in silence. No leaks, no rumors, just one shocking announcement that cracked the internet in half. And here's the kicker. Mark Davis personally flew in to meet Shedeur at a secret location. No agents, no cameras, just an owner telling a young quarterback, name your price. By the next morning, Sanders was gone. Cleveland never stood a chance. It wasn't just that the Browns lost a top prospect, it's how they lost him. Quietly, quickly, while they assumed everything was fine. The moment the numbers dropped, the internet erupted. $80 million guaranteed for a rookie. Mid-training camp. No leaks, no warning shots. Just a seismic announcement that cracked every inch of NFL media. Not since Patrick Mahomes' extension or Tom Brady's Tampa Bay signing had a quarterback deal caused this kind of digital chaos. But this was different, because Shedeur Sanders hadn't even taken an NFL snap. And yet, here he was, breaking financial records that were previously reserved for MVPs, playoff veterans, and Super Bowl winners. By the time the deal hit major sports channels, it was already trending in 14 countries. TikTok was flooded with reactions, hot takes, and memes. Twitter hashtags like #RaidersHeist and #ShedeureToVegas trended for 48 straight hours. Instagram athletes, coaches, and commentators were reposting the same phrase over and over. No one saw this coming. Las Vegas had just pulled off the most shocking quarterback acquisition in league history, and the world was watching in real time. Even insiders were caught off guard. NFL veterans texting reporters with, "Wait, is this real?" Media personalities went live with breaking coverage before even confirming contract details. Some analysts speculated the post was fake, a clickbait parody, until the official press release dropped. What followed was total digital chaos. The Raiders' website crashed 3 times in the first hour. Team stores were overwhelmed. The official Instagram post of Shedeur in Raiders black cracked 1 million likes in 6 hours. And this wasn't just noise. It was revenue, relevance, and raw emotional energy, something the Raiders haven't sparked in a long time. For a franchise that spent decades searching for stability under center, this wasn't just a contract. It was a declaration. The deal instantly made Shedeur one of the top 15 highest-paid quarterbacks in the league by average annual value. And considering he hadn't played a single pro down yet, that number sent shockwaves through every locker room, agent firm, and front office in the country. More than anything, it exposed how hungry the Raiders were for change, and how completely unprepared the Browns were to stop it. Because while the world was glued to their screens watching this unfold, Cleveland's front office was silent. They'd been blindsided, shifted from confidence to chaos in less than 24 hours. And what very few people knew, at least not yet, is that this wasn't an impulsive move by the Raiders. It was the final step in a long, calculated operation. And it all started months before the first headline ever dropped. The public didn't find out until it was already over. But behind the scenes, ... The moment everything changed was a single, secret meeting. No agents, no cameras, no press. Just Raiders owner Mark Davis and a quarterback who hadn't even technically hit the open market. Sources close to the Raiders confirmed what feels more like a movie scene than an NFL negotiation. On a Tuesday night, under total blackout conditions, Mark Davis flew across the country to meet Shedeur Sanders at an undisclosed location. No team executives, no media handlers. Nobody else in the room. Just one message. We're not just signing a quarterback, we're building a legacy. Name your price. That's what Davis reportedly told Sanders straight to his face, without hesitation, without red tape. The meeting lasted 4 hours. No leaks came out. No agents were even present during the initial conversation. And that was intentional, because what was said during those 4 hours would send shockwaves through the entire league. Shedeur didn't give an immediate answer. He told Davis he needed 24 hours to think. The Raiders gave him 12. By the time the sun rose the next morning, Las Vegas wasn't waiting. Their media team was already designing jerseys. Graphics departments were building rollout content. Press conferences were being scheduled. It wasn't a question of if. They moved like a team that already knew the answer was yes. And they were right. By midday Wednesday, multiple Raiders insiders confirmed the deal was in motion. The contract team was reviewing final language. Photo shoot setups were prepped. Calls to high-level sponsors began. It wasn't just an offer. It was a full franchise pivot, executed with military-level speed and precision. Compare that to what was happening back in Cleveland. Nothing. The Browns had no clue. In fact, at the exact same time Davis and Sanders were finalizing terms, Cleveland's coaching staff was still prepping its next phase of quarterback drills, assuming Sanders would be returning following his temporary suspension. They thought they had time. They didn't. Roughly 2 hours before the deal was finalized, Sanders' representatives made a courtesy call to the Browns front office to let them know what was coming. The call lasted 8 minutes. By the end of it, the Browns were already in full meltdown mode. And just like that, the most valuable player the Browns had seen in years was gone. Not because of money, but because someone else recognized his value before they did and didn't hesitate. What happened after that call? Pure chaos. But the real shock? This wasn't the beginning. This was the endgame of a long and carefully hidden operation that started months earlier, when the Raiders first realized the Browns were asleep at the wheel. The moment the numbers dropped, the internet erupted. 80 million guaranteed. For a rookie. Mid-training camp. No leaks, no warning shots, just a seismic announcement that cracked every inch of NFL media. Not since Patrick Mahomes' extension or Tom Brady's Tampa Bay signing had a quarterback deal caused this kind of digital chaos. But this was different, because Shedeur Sanders hadn't even taken an NFL snap. And yet here he was, breaking financial records that were previously reserved for MVPs, playoff veterans, and Super Bowl winners. By the time the deal hit major sports channels, it was already trending in 14 countries. TikTok was flooded with reactions, hot takes, and memes. Twitter hashtags like #RaidersHeist and #ShedeureToVegas trended for 48 straight hours. Instagram athletes, coaches, and commentators were reposting the same phrase over and over. No one saw this coming. Las Vegas had just pulled off the most shocking quarterback acquisition in league history, and the world was watching in real time. Even insiders were caught off guard. NFL veterans texting reporters with, Wait, is this real? Media personalities went live with breaking coverage before even confirming contract details. Some analysts speculated the post was fake, a clickbait parody, until the official press release dropped. What followed was total digital chaos. The Raiders' website crashed 3 times in the first hour. Team stores were overwhelmed. The official Instagram post of Shedeur in Raiders black cracked 1 million likes in 6 hours. And this wasn't just noise. It was revenue, relevance, and raw emotional energy, something the Raiders haven't sparked in a long time. For a franchise that spent decades searching for stability under center, this wasn't just a contract, it was a declaration. The deal instantly made Shedeur one of the top 15 highest-paid quarterbacks in the league by average annual value. And considering he hadn't played a single pro down yet, that number sent shockwaves through every locker room, agent firm, and front office in the country. More than anything, it exposed how hungry the Raiders were for change, and how completely unprepared the Browns were to stop it. Because while the world was glued to their screens watching this unfold, Cleveland's front office was silent. They'd been blindsided, shifted from confidence to chaos in less than 24 hours. And what very few people knew, at least not yet, is that this wasn't an impulsive move by the Raiders. It was the final step in a long, calculated operation. And it all started months before the first headline ever dropped. The Raiders didn't stumble into Shedeur Sanders. They had been watching him long before social media exploded, and long before the Browns realized they were being hunted. It all started the moment cracks began showing in Cleveland. Internally, it was described as training camp tension, disagreements with coaches, miscommunication with leadership, chemistry issues simmering under the surface. But to the Raiders front office, it wasn't some routine preseason noise. It was an opening, a trigger point. The moment dysfunction made the Browns vulnerable. That's when the Raiders launched a covert scouting operation, one of the most methodical intelligence-gathering efforts the organization has pulled off in years. Officially, Raider scouts were showing up to Browns camp to evaluate defensive personnel. That was the cover. But insiders now confirm their real objective was clear: a complete character and performance audit of Shedeur Sanders. They weren't just watching him throw. They were watching everything: walk-through behavior, footwork, timing with wideouts, how he reacted to coaching, how he communicated in huddles, how he adjusted when teammates dropped passes, or when things got heated. They took notes on nonverbal behavior, how early he arrived, who he talked to first, how he carried himself when eyes weren't on him. Every detail, every practice, every session. And while the Browns were distracted trying to manage internal drama, the Raiders were building a full psychological dossier. The reports that came back, unanimously positive. The data showed what the highlight reels couldn't: elite pocket presence, off-the-charts leadership intangibles, complete composure under scrutiny, QB1 charisma that teammates naturally followed. But this wasn't just about talent. It was about timing. The Raiders knew the Browns had mismanaged the situation. Sanders' reputation was taking hits in the media after the suspension, but his actual value had never dropped. If anything, the dysfunction made him more obtainable, at least in theory. So the Raiders waited and watched. They continued to monitor every press conference, every Cleveland depth chart update. They mapped out every potential scenario where he might be cut, benched, suspended longer, or grow frustrated enough to walk away. And when Cleveland faltered, Las Vegas struck like a sniper. They had already run the numbers. The contract was drawn up. The marketing team had templates ready to go. All they needed was that single green light. The one opportunity where the Browns were distracted, disorganized, and fully exposed. And that moment came faster than anyone inside Cleveland expected. Because by the time they realized the Raiders were even interested, It was already done. Numbers don't lie. But these numbers, they don't just tell a story. They redefine how rookies get paid in the NFL. The Raiders gave Shedeur Sanders an $80 million guaranteed deal over 4 years. Let that sink in. This wasn't a multi-year veteran with playoff wins under his belt. This was an unproven rookie QB mid-training camp, stepping into his first NFL huddle, and already getting paid like a franchise cornerstone. The average annual value of the deal, $20 million per year, instantly placed Shedeur among the top 15 highest-paid quarterbacks in the league. And that's before the incentives. Performance bonuses built into the contract could eventually push the total payout close to 9 figures. If Shedeur even grazes expectations, he could clear $100 million before his rookie deal expires. Something no other first-year quarterback in history has ever come close to. This wasn't just groundbreaking, it was league-breaking. For context, consider the contracts of Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson, MVP-caliber quarterbacks with playoff resumes and years of experience. Burrow's last extension totaled $275 million, with $146 million guaranteed. Lamar scored $260 million, with $185 guaranteed. Shedeur didn't have to win a playoff game. He just had to be available when the Browns weren't paying attention. NFL executives are panicking behind closed doors. The guaranteed money sets a precedent that has agents lining up with new demands on behalf of their rookie clients. Front offices are suddenly finding themselves crushed by renegotiation requests. Young quarterbacks around the country are watching this and asking one question: if he got that deal, why can't I? But here's the real tension. It's not just about the money. It's about the message. Mark Davis and the Raiders didn't tiptoe into this deal. They didn't slowly sweeten the offer or play typical negotiations. They came in with a monster paycheck, no hesitation, and told the entire league, "We're done waiting." And that aggressiveness exposed something deeper. NFL franchises that hesitate, who over-evaluate, over-politicize, or play safe, risk losing generational talent to teams willing to roll the dice. The Browns blinked. The Raiders didn't. And now teams across the league are staring at a new reality. Shedeur Sanders just walked into the building with a contract that says, "I belong." The only question now, can he live up to it or blow past it? Either way, Vegas isn't dreaming anymore. They're betting on dominance. And as you'll soon see, Cleveland is about to collapse under the weight of what they just lost. By the time Cleveland realized what was happening, it was already too late. Less than 48 hours before the Raiders made their explosive announcement, the Browns were still operating like Sanders was coming back. Coaches were building red zone packages. The front office was prepping QB1 for preseason activation. Internally, leadership believed the situation was under control. Just a suspension, just a bump in the road. Then came the call. 8 minutes. That's all it took for Shedeur's camp to inform Browns general manager Andrew Berry that the deal was done. Not rumored, not expected, done. Sources say Berry went silent halfway through the conversation and then scrambled to salvage the situation, offering immediate reinstatement, a fresh contract extension, and a guaranteed starting role. But it didn't matter. The Raiders had already made their pitch. Sanders had already made his decision, and Vegas wasn't giving anyone time to think twice. One Browns insider described it like watching a slow-motion car crash with no one at the wheel. Inside the building, chaos. Head coach Kevin Stefanski reportedly walked out of the meeting room and didn't speak for over 20 minutes. Owners Jimmy and Dee Haslam were seen arguing behind closed doors. Staffers described the mood as confused, paralyzed, and completely unprepared. And the fans, they took the roof off. By nightfall, #FireStefanski was trending nationwide. the Browns' social media pages were burying furious comments by the second. One viral post got 400,000 likes in under 6 hours. We had the next Patrick Mahomes, and we handed in to the Raiders over training camp drama. Another fan simply wrote, "In a league that rewards aggression, we went passive. I'm done." Within 24 hours, local sports radio was flooded. Season ticket holders, some with seats for decades, were publicly announcing cancellations. Even respectable Cleveland voices couldn't hide the frustration. No one believed this was just a simple contract dispute. It was a full-blown mutiny. Players began texting reporters anonymously. Some expressed disappointment, others confusion. Several even questioned publicly why no contingency plan existed, why the team had no backup strategy for losing a guy that just weeks ago was supposed to carry the franchise. But it gets worse, because while Cleveland was scrambling, begging for damage control, Las Vegas was celebrating. Jerseys were selling out. Sportsbooks were adjusting odds. Raiders fans flooded comment sections with one sentence: "You fumbled your future. We found ours." One moment of hesitation, one misread situation, and the Browns lost everything they'd been building for. But the true damage? It's just beginning. If the Browns front office thought the fallout would fade in a few news cycles, they were wrong. This wasn't just disappointment. It was betrayal. Within hours of Shedeur Sanders' departure going public, Cleveland fans detonated across every platform. Local news stations were flooded with angry calls. Sports radio hit call volume records. National hashtags like #BrownsCollapse, #FireBarry, and #TheyLetShedeur dominated trending charts across every major platform. It wasn't just rage over losing a talented player. It was the realization that this franchise had no idea what it was doing. For years, Browns fans have endured the agony of near successes turned into spectacular meltdowns. Quarterback after quarterback, rebuild after rebuild, and just when it finally felt like they had the guy, a leader with presence, poise, star power, and playoff potential, the organization let him walk without a fight. One fan's viral post read, "This is worse than letting LeBron leave. At least he delivered a ring. Sanders hadn't even been given a real shot before they threw him into chaos." Another reply summed up the mood more sharply. "The Browns didn't just lose Shedeur, they lost us." Local bars in Cleveland reported jersey-burning events happening that night. #DoneWithTheBrowns trended in multiple cities across Ohio. Even former Browns players joined in, with one tweeting, "Same old story. Every time there's a leader, the building burns him out." Season ticket holders weren't just angry. Many were done for good. Over the next 48 hours, dozens of longtime supporters posted screenshots of canceled payments, shredded gear, and letters to the team vowing never to return. The message was loud and clear. This wasn't repairable. It's not losing that hurts. It's the fact they didn't even try to keep him. Fans demanded action. Some wanted the front office purged. Others called for Kevin Stefanski to step down immediately. Many simply wanted ownership to acknowledge what had happened, instead of spinning it as business as usual. But the organization went quiet, and that silence only poured more gasoline on the fire. By week's end, Cleveland's culture had shifted. Not just inside the locker room or on social media, but throughout the city. The trust that built slowly over years of suffering was shattered in seconds. Because this wasn't just about losing one player, it was about losing hope. The kind of hope that takes decades to rebuild. And while the Browns scrambled to sweep up the pieces, the Raiders were rallying around their new face of the franchise, preparing to unleash him on the rest of the NFL. But the next chapter in this story, it leaves Cleveland in an even darker place, because inside the Raiders' locker room, everything changed overnight. While Cleveland was unraveling, Las Vegas was reborn. Within minutes of the Shedeur Sanders deal becoming public, the energy across the Raiders organization flipped. You could feel it everywhere, from the locker room to the offices to the streets of Vegas. For the first time since the franchise relocated, the team wasn't just making headlines. They were making believers. One Raiders player, speaking anonymously, described it perfectly. The vibe changed overnight. Coaches were smiling again. Players started leaning in during meetings. It finally feels like we're building something real. And the numbers backed up the hype. Ticket waitlist grew by over 15,000 names in a single day. Jersey pre-orders for Shedeur already surpassed the entire previous season's sales before he even taken a snap. Local sports bars began planning full-blown events for his preseason debut. Even local businesses started jumping in, organizing Shedeur-themed giveaways, fan rallies, and poster campaigns across Vegas. This is the biggest sports moment here since the Raiders moved, one superfan told local news. We've got our guy now, our Joe Montana moment, in black and silver. And inside the Raiders facility, the shift wasn't just emotional, it was structural. Offensive coordinator Luke Getsy immediately began tailoring the playbook for Sanders. Dual threat capabilities. Raiders receivers, stunned at first, started lining up throw sessions to build chemistry early. Even defensive players, normally numb to QB talks, began saying what no one had heard in years. Things feel different now. Shedeur brought something the franchise has lacked for over a decade. Actual belief. Not hype, not rebuild talk, but belief that this team can compete now. Coaches have already noted his leadership in the facility. Sources say he's asking for longer walkthroughs, more film room time, and even voluntary workouts with backup receivers just to build timing. He hasn't played in a preseason game yet, but he's already carrying himself like a proven veteran. But make no mistake, this isn't just a feel-good story. It's a calculated lightning strike. Las Vegas didn't just sign a quarterback. They gave their entire roster someone to center around. Someone young, gifted, poised, and with everything to prove. And the rest of the AFC? They noticed. Especially one team in particular, the defending champs. Because next on the schedule, Shedeur Sanders isn't facing just any division opponent. He's walking straight into Arrowhead Stadium to face a dynasty. Patrick Mahomes, Sunday Lights, two eras on a collision course. The moment Shedeur Sanders put pen to paper, the AFC West didn't just become more competitive. It became a battlefield. Already home to Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, and Russell Wilson, the division now adds a fourth gunslinger with youth, swagger, and a chip the size of Allegiant Stadium on his shoulder. But this isn't just a talent boost. It's a tectonic shift in storyline, branding, and power. And it didn't take long for things to get personal. Sources confirm that Patrick Mahomes personally reached out to Sanders shortly after the deal broke. His message was short, sharp, and layered with competitive heat. Welcome to the big leagues, Rook. Hope you're ready for what's coming, twice a year. Simple, respectful, and slightly menacing. Because let's be clear, Mahomes knows exactly what this means. Shedeur is younger, hungrier, and stepping into a franchise ready to build around him, not limit him. And for Mahomes, who's been the undisputed king of the AFC West for half a decade, any rise like this represents a threat to the throne. Las Vegas sees it too. Already, billboards across the Strip are teasing the matchup. National sports shows are foaming at the mouth, dubbing it the next great AFC rivalry. And in team facilities across the division, defensive coordinators are scrambling. With Shedeur's dual threat ability, defensive game plans are completely shifting. You can't just rush four anymore. You need a spy. You need mobile linebackers. You need corners disciplined enough to hold their zones when Shedeur starts moving. Offenses used to worry about playing against the Raiders' defense. Now, they're worried about keeping up with their offense. And then there's the Chargers. Sources say Justin Herbert's camp was surprised at the Raiders' aggression and that LA privately wondered whether they should have made a play for Sanders when Cleveland started spiraling. Internal regret? Possibly. Either way, it's too late now. The division has changed forever. You've got Mahomes with rings, Herbert with arm talent, Wilson rebuilding, and Shedeur, the wild card with the biggest spotlight in football. This isn't just competition. It's a quarterback arms race. And for the first time in a long time, the Raiders aren't bringing a knife to a gunfight. They're bringing a superstar. But while fans are drooling over highlight reels and media outlets crown the AFC West as the division to watch, something deeper is happening behind the scenes. Because while the Raiders prep for war, the Browns are still unraveling. And what's happening inside that locker room? It's worse than anyone thought. Back in Cleveland, things have gone from bad to unrecoverable. The front office may be trying to spin Shedeur Sanders' exit as part of the business, but inside the locker room, reality is collapsing. It's not just about a quarterback leaving. It's about trust. And right now, nobody in the building seems to have any left. Sources close to the team say players are openly questioning the decision-making at every level, starting with head coach Kevin Stefanski. His suspension of Sanders, originally framed as a disciplinary move, is now being viewed as the crack that opened the floodgates. "We lost him the moment they sat him down like that," one veteran reportedly said during a team meeting. And now there's no sense of direction. The presumed starter, Dillon Gabriel, is stepping in. And while he's shown flashes of potential, teammates privately admit he's not ready for this spotlight. Not just because he lacks experience, but because the locker room was built around Shedeur, emotionally, structurally, and psychologically. Multiple defensive players have already requested private meetings with the coaching staff to understand the team's true direction. Others are angry that no contingency plan was even discussed. It's as if leadership genuinely believed Shedeur would ride it out after the suspension, like nothing had changed. Everything changed. Team meetings are now tense. The offense is split, the receivers are frustrated, and assistant coaches are reportedly scrambling to restore morale just weeks before kickoff. "It feels like we're playing without a pulse," one staff member was quoted saying. "Guys are checked out. Some don't even believe in the system anymore. And the worst part? Nobody's taking the blame. Ownership is pointing fingers at Stefanski. Stefanski is reportedly shifting blame onto poor communication from the front office. The scouting department claims they gave warnings weeks ago. Everyone's in survival mode. No one's taking responsibility. Meanwhile, media pressure is intensifying. Local journalists are unleashing scathing op-eds. Former players are tearing into the franchise daily on live radio. And with the national spotlight now fixed on Vegas, Cleveland's once promising season is turning into a PR disaster. In just 1 week, the Browns have gone from AFC dark horse to a case study in how to lose control of a locker room in real time. And while Cleveland scrambles to fix what's broken, Mark Davis is already building a marketing empire around his new star. Because for Las Vegas, Shedeur's arrival isn't just about football. It's becoming a billion-dollar business move. And as you'll see in the next chapter, the economic explosion is unlike anything the NFL expected. For most teams, signing a rookie quarterback is a football decision, but in Las Vegas, it's a business revolution. The moment Shedeur Sanders signed his $80 million deal, the Raiders' football operations celebrated, but the marketing department? They went into overdrive. Within hours, billboards flooded the strip, Sanders in silver and black, with the tagline, "The future just landed." And that future is turning profitable, fast. Jersey pre-orders surged past last season's totals in just 3 days. Raiders' social media followers spiked by over 250,000 across platforms. The team's official merchandise store sold out of Sanders gear in 6 hours. Corporate America didn't waste a second either. According to sources, Nike already had a Raiders-themed Shedeur collection ready to roll, with plans for exclusive drops timed to his debut. Local businesses offered endorsement packages. Energy drink sponsorships were pitched within 48 hours. Casinos are rumored to be cooking up 7-figure partnerships as we speak. One marketing exec said it bluntly: Shedeur in Vegas is the perfect storm. NFL platform, iconic city, famous name, marketable face. Every brand wants in before the price skyrockets. And it's not just about gear and ads. It's about visibility. Vegas has always been known for entertainment. Now, with Shedeur Sanders, they've got something else. A face of the franchise that sells out stadiums and drives national headlines. NFL Network, ESPN, Bleacher Report, all running weekly Sanders-centric segments. Even Netflix is reportedly exploring behind-the-scenes access with Shedeur's camp. The content, the buzz, the brand, it's now bigger than some entire team's media reach. The Raiders' season ticket sales, which were lagging slumpishly just a month ago, have exploded. The team now sits on a wait list, 20,000 people deep, and local sports bars are already booked out for his Week 1 debut. Let's be clear. This didn't happen by accident. Shedeur's value was always more than his arm. The Raiders knew what they were getting. A high IQ passer with dual threat capabilities and instant commercial impact. He's not just a quarterback, he's a walking media brand. And in a market like Vegas, that's priceless. Meanwhile, the Browns are silent. No return pressers, no new face of the franchise, and no easy fix. While their stadium grows quieter, Allegiant Stadium is about to become a main event every Sunday. Because when Shedeur steps on that field, it's not just about stats or scores anymore. It's about tickets. It's about TV deals. And it's about taking over the league. One city, one sponsor, and one highlight at a time. While the NFL world focused on Shedeur Sanders and the $80 million splash that shook the league, there was one voice behind the scenes that shaped everything. He never gave a press conference, never posted a tweet, never lit up a talk show with cryptic sound bites. But his influence was everywhere. Coach Prime Sanders, Hall of Famer, NFL veteran, and Shedeur's father, has stayed publicly silent throughout the media storm. But according to multiple sources familiar with the situation, Deion's fingerprints were all over this deal from the beginning. And it wasn't emotional. It was strategic. Classic Prime. Insiders confirm Deion held private conversations with Shedeur throughout the tension in Cleveland. Not to vent, not to panic, but to plan, to evaluate, to look beyond the headlines and project Shedeur's future, not one season at a time, but one legacy at a time. Greatness, Deion allegedly told his son, requires great environments, and Cleveland ain't it. Those words echoed as the Browns stumbled through dysfunction, suspensions, and PR disasters. All the while, Deion was quietly helping Shedeur navigate one of the biggest decisions of his life, not as a coach, but as a father who's already walked the NFL fire. Father. Remember, this is a man who's battled media pressure, handled multi-million-dollar contracts, and built a global brand rooted in swagger, performance, and precision. And now, he's guiding his son using that same blueprint, only in today's hyper-digital, content-driven professional world. Deion understood something most front offices still don't. Teams don't just draft players anymore. They inherit full platforms. And that platform needs structure, stability, and visibility. In Vegas, Shedeur found all three. Mark Davis gave him the money. The Raiders gave him the spotlight. But Deion gave him the blueprint. How to think long-term, how to protect your brand, and how to walk away from chaos, even when it's dressed in starter reps and fat potential. This wasn't just a deal, one close family insider said. This was a business decision rooted in legacy, and Deion helped him treat it that way. The result? A move that shocked the league and ignited a franchise. And it wouldn't have happened without Coach Prime pulling the invisible strings. From Colorado to Cleveland, and now to Las Vegas, Deion Sanders didn't just raise a quarterback. He raised a businessman, a competitor, and a brand with purpose. And while everyone focuses on Shedeur's debut, just remember, Coach Prime is still watching, still advising, still working the sidelines, whether you can see him or not. This wasn't just a transaction. It was a chain reaction, and it's already sweeping through the NFL like wildfire. What the Raiders did with Shedeur Sanders didn't just shake up one division. It altered how teams evaluate talent, how agents negotiate contracts, and how young players think about their careers. In one bold move, Mark Davis rewrote the rookie quarterback market. And now, every owner across the league is doing two things: recalculating cap space, asking, are we next? The $80 million guaranteed shocked the league, not just because it was massive, but because it was guaranteed for a rookie with 0 NFL snaps. That kind of confidence has been unheard of until now. If Shedeur got that bag, one anonymous AFC exec said, then every blue-chip prospect coming out already knows he's worth double. Agents are licking their chops. College standouts are doubling down on personal brands. Free agents are starting to question their current team's trajectory because now they know what's possible when talent meets timing and trust. And trust might be the most important part. Shedeur didn't leave Cleveland for more cash. He left for clarity. Vegas provided structure, belief, and a sense of vision. They acted fast. They treated Sanders like a future legend instead of a roster variable. And that's the model younger stars are looking at now. You don't stay loyal to dysfunction, one analyst said on ESPN. You go where you're wanted and respected. That's the new NFL. We're entering an era where rookies don't just accept where they're drafted, they challenge it. Where contracts aren't just financial tools, they're leverage mechanisms for real power. Where athletic ability is only half the game, and the other half is branding, strategy, and knowing when to walk away from the wrong environment. College programs are already feeling it. High school athletes are watching this unfold not as a fluke, but as the new playbook. This deal didn't just change Sanders' life. It set a precedent that every next-gen athlete is now chasing. The Browns didn't just lose a player. They lost credibility on a national scale. Teams that can't evolve, that still treat players like chess pieces, are about to lose out on generation-changing talent, just like Cleveland did. Because if Shedeur Sanders just changed the league before his first snap, imagine what happens when he finally throws the first touchdown. With one signature, Shedeur Sanders didn't just join the NFL. He stepped into the spotlight as its next great storyline. Before he's even taken a regular season snap, he's already changed how rookie deals are structured, reshaped the Raiders' identity, and exposed the cracks in an entire NFL franchise. And now, every step he takes from this point forward is under a national microscope. Because this isn't a rebuild. This isn't a warm-up year. Las Vegas didn't invest $80 million for patience. They invested to win now. And that brings a new weight only a few quarterbacks have ever carried this early. Shedeur enters a division where Patrick Mahomes already has a dynasty in motion, where Justin Herbert is gunning for recognition, and where Russell Wilson is fighting to reclaim relevance. There are no tune-up games, no soft landings. Every week, every throw, every read will be judged like he's a 10-year vet. But here's the difference. Shedeur seems ready for it. He didn't run from expectations at Colorado. He didn't snap during controversy in Cleveland. And now, he's walking into the league's most intense spotlight with the full force of a city, a franchise, and a legacy behind him. Because this isn't just his moment, it's his family's. Coach Prime didn't just prepare a quarterback. He shaped a leader. He didn't just raise an athlete. He built a brand. And now that brand is center stage in the most unpredictable, high-stakes proving ground in sports. Every highlight will go viral. Every mistake will be dissected, every win will build the legend, and every loss will question the investment. But that's the pressure that comes with becoming the new face of football. And for the Raiders, this isn't just about the 2024 season. This is about erasing decades of disappointment, turning broken promise into bold execution. Shedeur isn't just their quarterback. He's their shot at relevance, redemption, and rings. And after years of being the NFL's what-if franchise, Las Vegas finally said, no more waiting, no more missing out, no more rebuilding. We're taking our shot now. Meanwhile, Cleveland is still stuck in meetings, press conferences, and quiet panic because they didn't just lose a quarterback. They handed the league's future directly to a rival. And as the season opener approaches, one thing is certain. The NFL won't just be watching Shedeur Sanders. It'll be revolving around him.